Hello, race fans. You're listening to the NASCAR Show here on the Grueling Truth where Legends Speak. I'm your host, Alex Gray, along here with my co-host, Steve Risley. Let's go ahead and jump into things here. On the sadder side of news, if you haven't heard earlier this week, Brenda Jackson, the mother of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kelly Earnhardt, passed away at the age of 65 after a battle with cancer. This was announced by Junior Motorsports on Monday. Just want to offer our thoughts and prayers here from here at the Grueling Truth and this show to Dale Earnhardt Jr., his family, and, of course, the entire Junior Motorsports organization at this time.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I mean, another loss for the Earnhardt family. So, but, life moves on, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
She actually she's worked at Junior Motorsports as an accounting specialist from 2004 up until now. So,
yeah. Okay, let's get into some other dismal news.
All right.
Which is Richmond.
Yeah, we need to recap Richmond since we weren't able to do that. So Martin Truex Jr. finally getting that first career short track win, winning his first race under the Joe Gibbs banner. Joey Logano, Clint Bowyer second and third. About 20 laps, pretty intense finish. Truex able to hold off a charging 22 and a charging 14 car. Harvick and Hamlin round out the top five. Austin Dillon was sixth, so actually he's the highest finish from Chevrolet.
Okay.
Keselowski, Kurt Busch eighth, and then Ryan Newman, Paul Menard round out the top 10. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean,
Kyle Busch.
Sorry, I got two dogs playing around with each other. Bad coming. I thought that the race, again, I don't know, and you can explain it to us because you're the technical guy here. The horsepower, I don't know if that's what's causing these kind of just parades. But I honestly thought Richmond is usually a very exciting track where there's bang up bumping going on. Rubbing and racing and things. But I really thought until the last 20 to 30 laps, it was kind of a parade. And then, then Bowyer, Logano, and Truex, and Harvick's in the mix. They're all battling back and forth. And then Logano and Martin Truex put on a great show the last 10 to 15 laps. Why are they not doing that the whole race?
I think what I've learned watching all these races with the new aero package, my one and big complaint with the aero package is the horsepower. I don't agree necessarily of going down from 750 to 500 HP.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. And that's why you probably don't see as many wrecks, is because the cars are running a little slower. I would suggest heavily just shooting it back up to 750 and, not worrying about it, to be honest with you.
Well, these guys can handle that. They've handled the horsepower forever. I mean, why can they not still handle it?
Well, of course.
Yeah, but I think you've got some news a little bit later in the show here where NASCAR came out and admitted some things. And, we'll address that a little bit later. But all in all, I was kind of disappointed with Richmond because that's usually one of the better races. And it's the first Saturday night race. But, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It just seemed a little boring. Toyota and Ford continue to dominate. Chevy's still struggling. Hendricks is still struggling badly. They just can't get their stuff together. I don't know. But anyway, so all in all, Richmond was Richmond. No, it wasn't Richmond. It was the new and improved Richmond, I guess. Yeah,
Richmond Raceway. Yeah,
but I don't think it was the racing that I've seen at Richmond before. With guys going at it full time. How good is the segment 7 working? Is it working good? Because
you cut off a bit. What was that?
The segment racing.
Stage racing. Okay.
Is it stage racing? Yes, stage racing. Is it doing anything for the sport?
I think I can understand the point of stage racing. I think it's all right. And every now and then you get a late caution in the stage, like Bristol. You had Ty Dillon winning a stage, which something that you don't usually see from that 13 car. They were able to put themselves in an interesting position and win themselves a stage. Stage racing to me, I think, was made to make I guess the race is more appealing, especially
in the middle of the race.
Yeah, and I've said it before on here. I think I like to poke fun at my age group, but I've learned in my journalism classes that our attention spans nowadays are indeed shorter, and I think that's probably at least my thought process of why NASCAR went with stage racing is because perhaps that could work with the shorter attention spans that the younger audience may have. And that's not a shot at anyone. That's just from what I've learned.
You know, and that's a good question. Because like I rarely, I'll watch live Sunday because that's Talladega, and you're gonna sit there glued to the seat waiting for the big one to happen. But is DVRs, is it kind of hurting the sport a little bit? Because normally, I'll be watching something else or I'll be playing golf and I'll DVR the race. And then I'll come home and I'll just flip through commercials. I'll flip through probably the first 50 laps unless a wreck occurs, and I'll back it up and watch the wreck and see what happened there. But with that parade mentality, are DVRs kind of hurting the attendance of the sport too, or the TV ratings and everything?
I mean, it's really hard to say. As I've said before, with the TV ratings, which have been improving this year so far.
Yeah, they have. Yeah,
which is good. I think personally, what you have too is streaming. I have the Fox Sports Go and NBC Sports app, and I use them for NASCAR. If I'm not near TV, I'll log in with my provider and use that in case I need to watch a race, or I'll listen to MRN on my phone, or I'll even check in with Discord and Reddit chats that I'm in to check out. They'll follow some chats I'm in will actually like post update to the race, and I'm like, oh man, I can't believe that happened. So. Yeah, I mean, there's two different ways of the spectrum there. You got the DVRs, and then, of course, you got the Internet, basically. So, and that pretty much says possibly our two generations apart, kind of. Again, trying to be funny there. But, I mean, I think with the TV ratings, I think a lot of major sports are kind of suffering that, especially that there are so many cable channels out there now. There's so many. There's a channel for the NFL in general. There's a channel for Major League Baseball. There used to be an auto racing channel on its own speed. So, I mean, I guess it's like all about it's kind of like getting that niche audience, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to some news. What news we know? I got one. And I know you've got a bunch. So, but and we'll talk about this real quick. There was a pushback. In NASCAR, there was the interest in having midweek races, and they haven't done it yet. But interesting comments on that the track owners were very much against it. And the reason is that they lose the camping revenue.
Yeah, because it's during the week. Usually,
during the week, yeah. They don't sell trailer spots, for the RVs and things like that. And it's like a one-night race, and it's not they probably would come in and qualify either in the morning or the day before, and then race on Wednesday and be gone. And I think during midweek, a lot of people won't be able to pack up their campers and go to the track. So it was just an interesting concept. I didn't think about that because I thought initially midweek races would be great. I'd enjoy that on a Wednesday night when there's nothing else on. It's like, oh, good, there's a NASCAR race on Wednesday night. But it was interesting to see that the owners push back on that big time. So I doubt that you're going to have that happen.
Yeah, and that's fine. Obviously, I think Gateway was even a track that was not – they were interested in the Cup race, but they were also interested in potentially a midweek race in which leading into Gateway, a recent announcement that the company Worldwide Technologies, heavily based in St. Louis – I've actually seen their headquarters when I visit my family there. They have bought out the naming rights to Gateway Motorsports Park, and it's now called Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. To put that into perspective, it's kind of similar to when Charlotte Motor Speedway for a while was called Lowe's Motor Speedway. So I think this is a pretty big effort to land a Cup date there. Obviously, 2021 is the year when we could potentially see new tracks and even more shakeups with our current schedule. So, I mean, heck, I would love for Gateway to be on the Cup schedule. I think St. Louis is a good market. You got NASCAR brands already there. You got Anheuser-Busch, for Pete's sake, and, of course, now Worldwide Technology sponsored Bubba Wallace. So, yeah, good good thing for Gateway, and I'm hoping that they can land a Cup date.
Yeah, and Nashville got pushed out. You know, they were hoping to get a race, but they're pushed out. And
yeah,
so, I know Gateway wants in. Yeah, the problem is the current promoters don't want to give up one of their races, and they really have no room to add any more races to the schedule. It's already 36 weeks long.
Yeah, you do not need to make the schedule longer, but I also agree that some tracks don't need 2 races, in my opinion. Especially, I know a lot of people will say the mile and a halves don't need 2 races, which, you know, I'm fine with Kentucky having 1. So, I mean, the question is who's willing to give up the second date. You know, you got Pocono hosting a doubleheader next year, something different they're trying. With Nashville, there's just been a lot of roadblocks right now. I know there's been some legal matters and trying to get the funding to renovate it. The MLS stadium they're building next to it, so there's still hope. There was a rendering that came out recently of what the track would look like.
Yeah, I saw it. It looked good. It looked really good. Looks like a nice stadium style track, kind of like a little bit bigger version maybe of Bristol. So, and you know, obviously like what Kentucky did, the first 2 or 3 or 4 years, Nashville would you wouldn't be able to buy a ticket probably. You know, I didn't realize that Nashville had actually been on the schedule until 1984.
Yeah, I think the Fairgrounds was on the schedule until then, and I think they were hosting bush and truck races for a while after that. And then came along Nashville Super Speedway, and after 2011, the Xfinity Series stopped racing there, and it's been pretty much sitting there too. So yeah, and I remember that track very well. I remember Super Speedway when I did the Fairgrounds.
Basically, it might be if you build it, they still might not come.
Yeah, they built Nashville Super Speedway to lure a Cup date, and that just never came for them. So
never came for them, yeah. All right, what news do you got? Is interesting things going on? Where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about?
All right, I want to touch on the entry list for the Xfinity and Cup race real quick. 40 cars are entered for the Cup race. A new team is debuting, Extreme Concepts Incorporated. That is the number 81 of Jeffrey Earnhardt. They made their debut at Texas in the Xfinity Series a few weeks back. They're going to make their first of 2 Cup starts. The goal there with that number 81 team, they want to go full-time hopefully by next season. Jeffrey Earnhardt talked about that when he appeared on Dale Jr.'s Dale Jr. Download. So, yeah, Jeffrey's going to make 1 or 2 starts with that team, with Extreme Concepts obviously on the hood. I'm looking forward to see how they do. Justin Haley is going to be making his first Cup start. He's going to be in the 77 for Spire. Fraternal Order of Eagles will return as a sponsor, who sponsored him in the Truck Series at GMS Racing last year. Let's see. Stanton Barrett is racing for Rick Ware this weekend. I haven't heard that name in a while.
A long time. Is he racing in the Cup?
Yeah, and I think he drove at the Roval race last year too, because I know he's also like a stunt car driver for movies and stuff.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah. Reed Sorensen. What's up?
Go ahead.
Okay. Also, open cars. Reed Sorensen in the 27 for I believe that is premium. The 62 of Brendan Gong, 96 of Parker Kligerman, the 51 of Cody Ware. And in the Xfinity Series, you got Ross Chastain entered in the 10 for Colleague. Jeffrey Earnhardt's going to be in the 18 for Jogius Racing. Brett Moffitt will be entered for Junior Motorsports in the 8.
Okay. 40 is the limit, isn't it? They took it down from 43 to 40, didn't they?
Yeah, so we'll have a full Cup field.
When's the last time we had a full Cup field? Daytona?
It might have been Daytona. Yeah, it was Daytona. 2 cars missed the race.
Yeah, that's right. They actually had more cars and spots. What else? What about the aero packages, changes? We talked about some changes they talked about, and another article came about what NASCAR may be admitting some things.
Yeah, so the NASCAR All-Star Race, they announced their format for this year, pretty similar to years past, but it looks like they're going to be testing some possible future Gen 7 specifications for the All-Star Race. Obviously, NASCAR likes using the All-Star Race to test certain things. Last year, the current rules package was tested in last year's All-Star Race. Of course, that was with restrictor plates. So excuse me. Okay, so what they're doing is they're making changes with the splitter. I know that. They're making changes with the splitter. And let's see here. Yeah, it's a single-piece front splitter and a radiator pan combination designed to tweak the aerodynamics to make them more consistent to drive in traffic, along with a radiator vent that's going to exit through the hood. This is to create downforce and improve engine cooling. So those are the two things we'll be seeing for the All-Star race this year.
Is it a wise move to be making changes in the middle of the season? You know, these guys spend a lot of time off season dialing in the cars, getting them ready, and then NASCAR sees something in the middle of the season and they change the game on everybody. First off, does that look good for NASCAR to do that? And is it a good thing? Because it's expensive to do that, because now they got to change the aero packages on the cars. They're going to have to come up with a different, maybe a wind tunnel test or something to test things out. Is it good, and what's the purpose of doing it?
Well, this is just going to be the All-Star race. I've noticed in years past they'll use like 2 or 3 races on the schedule to test and rules package after another. I know Kentucky tested like 2 straight years they used a different rules package. I think NASCAR needs to find something they can work with for like 5 or 6 years instead of like every year it's a new rules package. Like at some point they have to find something that they can stick with rather than, and it does kind of hurt that, they're willing to test something at the middle of the season. And of course, it is hard when you're racing a 36 race schedule and, money's tighter than ever before. It's not like back in 2005 when they can go out to Kentucky Speedway on an off week and test like they used to. But yeah, I think that's the concern I've always had is you're making all these rules changes. When are you going to find a rules change that you can stick to? And it looks like that may not come until 2021 with the Gen 7 car. And that also goes with Chevy struggles, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah, I think that's how I view things is when are we going to find something that, okay, this makes good racing, this is the package we want to work with. And also with the Gen 7 car, we need to know like what it's going to look like soon. 2021 is going to be here before we know it. So, and the last thing I want NASCAR to do, and they will be in a lot of trouble if they do this, don't rush the product. Make a good quality product, make a good car. Be sure you're like, okay, this is perfect. We've tested it a lot over the off season and off weeks. We're ready to run it. If you need to run it by 2022, so be it. That's just my opinion.
Well, isn't this is 2019, 2021? 2021 they're going to run it in 2 years, kind of enough time to kind of dial it in and
That's
take it to the wind tunnel.
My biggest fear is that they may rush it. So, yes, the goal year is 2021, but if they need to push it back another year, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, just get it right, and stop the parades. It's just becoming a parade until the end, and then there seems to be much fewer cautions.
I think that has to do
with the horsepower.
Yeah, I think that has to do with the horsepower, the lesser horsepower, just creating fewer cautions because the cars are just a little slower than normal. I think that's what causes it, because I've noticed that this season that there've been fewer cautions.
Now, these spacers that are coming out for Talladega, are they gonna create pack racing again, or are we gonna see a parade at Talladega?
Well, a couple of months ago, Brad Keselowski was talking about this, and he thinks we may see the 2-car tandem come back. Now, obviously, that was the rules package we had back in 2011 on the restrictor, or I guess now the Daytona and Talladega like tracks. I shouldn't say restrictor plate anymore because, that era is now over. So I don't know, what can we expect? Maybe something similar to what we saw in 2012 with all those lead changes. The last thing, what I don't want to see is what we saw during Speed Weeks, during the Clash, the Xfinity race, and the duels when everyone was just, driving in a circle afraid to make a move. I'm just like, come on. So I'm hoping that's not the case. I don't think it will be the case this time around, judging from what we saw in the Daytona 500. I'm hoping that, we'll see a lot of passing, a lot of jostling for position at Talladega with this package.
Wasn't Daytona the last track to use the restrictor plate?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the last. They used the restrictor plates at Daytona. That was the last time they used them. And they went to the spacers after that. And again, that may be part of the factor of like what my disappointment in Richmond. I'm going to be very disappointed if there's not pack racing Sunday, because that's a race I sit at the edge of my seat on. I'll actually be up. It's 11 o'clock. It comes on 11 o'clock here. I'll be up, showered, my Chase Elliott shirt on, and sitting it there with a bag of popcorn and a Diet Coke and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Talladega. I still think we'll see pack racing. Now, I know the spoiler. I don't know if you've seen it. The spoiler is really tall for this race. So.
That's right. They did race it, didn't they?
Yeah, the spoilers. I think they've increased the height, because I think when they tested it, they said the cars were going too fast, I guess. So I guess they don't want a repeat of what we saw with Bill Elliott back in the 80s when he was going like 220 miles an hour out there. Yeah. Well,
the taller spoiler benefits the car behind the guy with the taller spoiler, doesn't it? Because it pushes the air up higher, wouldn't it?
I think so. And then again, we'll learn this weekend. We'll see how this all goes down.
Yeah. What else did you listen to? I know an article came out today that NASCAR was admitting some things.
Yeah, this came out yesterday from racingnews.co. It titles NASCAR Admits Mistakes, Looks to Return to Roots in 2021, with another headline here about NASCAR President Steve Phelps. Quote, I think we chased a new fan at the expense of an existing fan. We'll never do that again. So, yeah, I've looked through it, talking about how he became president of NASCAR, him talking about the schedule changes. He said on the Dale Jr. download that fans have said that they want to see more short tracks, more road courses, fewer intermediate tracks. We totally understand that. Of course, NASCAR has that 5-year deal that ends in 2020 of that agreement. And he also said you have to go to all the same tracks, but the way we kind of configure them kind of puts an emphasis on short tracks and road courses. He also knows that he'll make sure that there won't be that kind of, agreement like that again. Dale Jr. asked, are you guys looking at these agreements differently? Are they going to look at them differently where you aren't boxed in like you have been in the past? Steve Phelps pretty much said that's the plan. Doesn't know the answer to any new racetrack schedule changes for 2021 yet. Everything's pretty much on the table. We don't know right now. For 2021, the sport could look very different. NASCAR is open to making changes to please your fans. Come 2021, they will be able to do so. Steve Phelps just goes on talking about the different tracks, the Fairground Speedway, having the banquet there. Going to Nashville is a great idea. In 2021, are we going to be racing in Nashville? I don't know. Marcus Smith and Speedway Motorsports Incorporated have been working hard to make that happen. Of course, as I said, they're moving the banquet to Nashville, and it shows that rendering that I mentioned before. So Steve Phelps was talking about all the changes. But what I liked what he said here is, once again, we've made some mistakes. Listen, we're not the only business that's made a mistake, which is true. I think we chased a new fan at the expense of an existing fan. We'll never do that again. It doesn't mean that we can't have new fans in the sport, but we want our new fans and our existing fans and our avid, loyal fans to help grow the new fans.
You know what? It's 2019. We need to recreate the fight between who was it? Yarborough and Cale Yarborough and who was the other one?
Donnie Allison, 1979.
We need to do that this weekend. What, 79 to 19 is what, 40, 50 or 40 years? 40
yeah.
Years? 40-year anniversary. Let them have that. Get two guys to get out and finish the race and get out and just let them beat the crap out of each other for a few minutes.
Yeah, let it be like Kyle Busch and I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a younger driver who could potentially be kind of like a fighter. Or better yet, like 2016 at the Canadian Tire Road Course when John Hunter Nemechek and Cole Custer, and I think it was Custer that like tackled John Hunter Nemechek. It was crazy. So, hey, like I said, don't force the drama. I think NASCAR got a little too gimmicky under the likes of Brian France. If anything, I'm actually working on an article that I'm hoping to get posted here soon on what I think the 2021 schedule will look like. So, and I'll discuss, like, maybe several years later on, these tracks could be on the Cup schedule. But for a starter, for this new era that NASCAR is ushering in, I'm going to be typing up basically what I think the 2021 Cup schedule will look like. I was about to say something and it escaped my mind, but yeah.
Well, I'll say this. Talking about fighting, I remember my funniest thing was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was Kenseth and Jeff Gordon, and they got into it on the track, and then they parked their cars right in the middle of pit lane, and they got out, and either one of them took their helmets off.
It might have been Keselowski and Gordon.
Kevin who?
Keselowski and Gordon. I think that was at Texas late in 2014, I think.
Well, all I remember thinking and seeing is, okay, here's 250-pound guys with their helmets on, kind of bitch slapping each other. It's like, okay, take your helmet off if you're going to fight. Both of them had their helmets on, and they look like bobblehead dolls. You rarely do you see a guy out of the car with his helmet on. You see him, all you see is the head and the helmet. You get out of the car, and Gordon gets out, and that damn helmet, it's like Darth Vader. That thing's huge on him.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm cool with, like, if drivers get upset and they fight, that's completely fine. But, like, just don't force drama, no gimmicks. That's the problem. With the playoffs and then, like, especially this playoff system. I'm going to be honest here. I'm not a huge fan of this current playoff system. I just think that, you work hard, all these races. Yeah. Carl Edwards in 2016 was a fine example. He should have won the championship that year. He should have. Then that late wreck with him and Logano just completely ended it for him. And I just think that, like, okay. And that's when I was like, okay, yeah. Let's either go back to what we had in the first place, or I'm sure every traditional fan would love this, go back to what it was in 2003. Of course, I'm still –
Go ahead.
Well, and of course, I'm open to what NASCAR does. I'm giving anything a chance. I'm just being honest here. I think the current playoff system is just a little gimmicky, if you ask me.
The only thing I like about it is that there was times when, like, Petty or Earnhardt or Gordon, they'd win the championship with 5 races to go. Mm-hmm. They'd be so far ahead in points, they were uncatchable because they were having that kind of year. And the only thing I like about this is, it takes the top 16 cars, and really, if you're 17th, you're probably really not going to contend for the championship because you're probably enough points down. You're probably eliminated at that point in time when the championship starts. So I actually was an opponent to this at the beginning, but right now, it's pretty dramatic. Because you have to either get the win and you relax, but you can like, I think Elliott won 2 races in one segment or something like that last year, and then he didn't win again, and he was out. So it's dangerous. The wrecks occur, and so I really have come to like the playoff system because and then what I don't like about it is, in the last race, it's like every car on the track except the 4 are running high in the groove and just letting those guys race each other. It's like they ought to run the race and then put those 4 cars on the track and let those 4 cars, have a shootout on their own for the championship. But put them in the mix.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that. Of course, the biggest issue there is the other teams and the other drivers may be losing money over that too. The one time that I really loved how the chase worked out, or the playoffs, was 2011 when you had Stewart and Edwards. Edwards had been consistent all year. He was having a Matt Kenseth-like 2003-like kind of year. Tony Stewart, the wild card, last guy to get in, and just absolutely exploded that year and won the championship. That was, to me, my favorite playoff season was 2011. That was beautiful, and I loved every bit of it. It was a great battle to the very end at Homestead.
No, I agree. So I'd be more in favor of keeping it than I would be getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Probably, if you think about it really true, segment racing is still probably good too. What I don't like is the way they're changing the cars around, slowing them down, taking the speed away from them. It's harder to pass without that power because everybody's got the same horsepower. And it's slow enough that you can't pick up a draft as good. I mean, it just does. I don't think that package has worked at all. So.
Yeah.
By the way, when NASCAR said they made mistakes, did they list any of the mistakes they made? Probably not.
Let me see here. I think it just talks about, we've made these mistakes. They're talking about we have to do some things differently. Fans want us to do things differently. I think we need to do it as quickly as we can within reason. And, again, there goes to my whole thing. Don't rush it. Don't throw it into something, let's see. And talking about basically like attracting fans and all that.
Okay. Any news on the sponsorship? Because Monster Energy is leaving this year. Any news or any speculation on that? We both heard they're going to look maybe to regional sponsors for NASCAR, like 4 or 5 race packages, where say Target would be a presenting sponsor of NASCAR, or maybe the West Coast Swing or something like that. And then in Texas it might be Bubba's Barbecue. Is that still kind of the thought process between this?
So basically, NASCAR is going to go with this new sponsorship model, a similar one used by the NCAA. The Cup Series is just going to simply be the NASCAR Cup Series. And I think this is a smart move because the issue you had in the past, especially with Nextel and Sprint, you notice that all the other similar companies just left and said there's no reason to compete with them. Big deal here with Monster Energy, Vital Energy left, NOS Energy left, and I just think with it being the NASCAR Cup Series, you're welcoming anyone. So, T-Mobile can sponsor a car while Sprint sponsors another, or Pepsi can sponsor something while Coke sponsors something else, something like that. I think that's what this new sponsorship model is going to do, and if that's the case, that would be great. So basically, I know Monster Energy even offered to extend another year, and I think they're going to take one of the tier sponsors as well, which is good, great. The brand most likely to land top tier slots, Coca-Cola, which already has an official deal with the sanctioning body through 2023. NASCAR has more than 50 official sponsors, according to this article from ESPN. There's like different tiers and all that. I just think that what they're doing here is a really smart move, and I think it's going to welcome all sorts of new businesses and brands into the sport, and perhaps maybe some returning ones as well.
And I agree. And it's a smart move because it's less of an investment into it, where a Monster Energy puts so much money into it. I think the sponsorship package runs somewhere around $20 million, doesn't it? That's the number I've heard thrown around.
Yeah.
So they put up $20 million
for top tier slots.
For top tier slots, yeah. So they'll have it will be like a 5 or 6 race package, where say Coca-Cola will sponsor 5 races in a row or 6 races in a row, or will it be individual for each race?
I'm thinking that's what they might do. So, as you mentioned, the West Coast Swing presented by Coca-Cola or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think, we'll probably figure this out more as we get closer to 2020, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all works out and perhaps seeing hopefully all the new brands that can come into the sport.
I think I'm excited about it. Yeah, I think it's great. That's probably the smartest move NASCAR's made. Well, probably the second smartest move. The first was probably removing Brian France. You think you'll ever see him in a position again anymore, or is he just a wealthy heir now?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be CEO ever again. I think he's simply just going to be behind the scene, or be back there, can't make any decisions. And I mean, you're the CEO of a driving sport, and you got arrested for DUI and possession of drugs. That kind of makes you look bad.
Yeah, bad PR. And you know what? I watched the banquet several times. He never looked comfortable.
He doesn't go to any races.
He doesn't even go to the races anymore?
Brian France, he didn't go to a whole lot of races. Jim France, he's there every weekend.
Wow. Yeah. Well, like I said, that may be the smartest move they made, and then going to the sponsorship package is the next. Before we get to Talladega, I got a question. We were talking about the midweek racing.
Yes.
If they had not had midweek racing in Petty's era, do you think he would have won 200 races?
Well, if you had a similar schedule today than you had back then, yet Petty would not have won 200. Just like if you would have put a Richard Petty in his prime in today's NASCAR, he would still be great. He would be among one of the best, but he would not have won 200 races since NASCAR was so much different back then. It's going to be hard for someone to do 200.
They ran a lot more races back then, didn't they? Because they ran like 2 races a week a lot of times. I mean, they ran maybe 50 races or something like that. I mean, just endless amount of race. I mean,
there was one year where there was one year where Petty won like 27 races in 1 year.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, I don't remember. I remember seeing that as a statistic. Any other news we got?
Let's see. I don't think there's much else. Although talking about the history stuff, when I was a kid, when I first became a NASCAR fan, I got like History NASCAR DVD and all these different books I would look at, and that's why I just know so much. So it's just one of those things I just got really hooked up on as a kid. Besides that,
I'm 60, so I got it just from watching the races and learning and seeing it. I've been watching NASCAR since probably 1976. I got hooked on it then because I grew up in Indianapolis with the 500. Yeah. We used to always go to the 500, so racing was in my blood. Mm-hmm. And they tore up the Indy 500 too. I mean, it's a shell of what it used to be. We used to go to qualifying, and the track was sold out for qualifying on pole day. It was almost as crowded on pole day as it was on race day. Now you get maybe the grandstands filled up on qualifying day, and maybe turn one or something like that. But that's about it in the paddock. So they tore that up. It used to be the whole month was dedicated. You had practice, and they had 2 weeks of qualifying, and then they had bump day.
Yeah,
now they go ahead.
You mentioned Indy. Supposedly in June, the Xfinity Series is going to test the road course at Indy.
Are they?
Yeah.
I mean, a race or just tested?
Just testing. That's what I've been hearing. So, and by the way, do you have any remembrance of the F1 Grand Prix in 2005? Because I know that was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, they wouldn't go fast because the tires wouldn't hold up.
Yeah, there were a lot of tire issues and like six cars.
They paraded around. I think the F1 was there 5 years, and I think Schumacher may have won all 5 races.
Yes, I think Schumacher did.
But that race I remember that they left Indy because they were scared because they were going too fast. Those guys aren't used to driving that fast because they'd come out of the road course part and they'd come backwards down turn one and backwards down the main straightaway, and those things have got power. But the curves on an F1 track never lets them use it. But when you let those things go down a straightaway, they've got as much power as an Indy car or a NASCAR, and maybe because they're a little more exotic, they may even have a little bit more. But they came to Indy and they left because the drivers just said, we're scared of this track. It's just too fast. Because no other track has a straightaway like that, that wide and that smooth, where there's no bumps, no grinds, and they had to dive sharp into turn one and the braking, and they did it 5 years. It was a bust. I went the first year, and then I went the second year. In the last 3 years, I said, this isn't any good, because it was a parade. Schumacher would get out in front, and that would be the end of it. Nobody could pass him.
Yeah, Schumacher was just so dominant back then.
Yeah. Although I'll tell you what, right in that, have you watched any F1 races?
I've tried to follow it the best I can.
Yeah, F1 is doing a good job. They've got as dicey and racy as I've seen them. I've watched F1 as long as I can remember. You have to get up at 3 or 4 in the morning to watch it, but and I don't DVR it because when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is Twitter, and all I'll see is right there, Hamilton wins again. Okay, why am I going to watch the race? So I just wake up at 3 a.m. and watch the race. What were you going to say?
Speaking of Formula One, Adam Stern made a couple of interesting posts here that the Secretary of Tourism of Mexico is exploring the possibility of bringing several NASCAR races to Mexico, and that the government wants to bring NASCAR to Mexico instead of Formula One. And then there's another one here from Adam Stern that F1 has scrapped plans to hold a race in downtown Miami, but is now working towards putting one near the Dolphins Hard Rock Stadium. I don't know if they're trying to put in a second U.S. Grand Prix, because they tried to do that in New York a few years ago, or something along the lines of that. Yeah.
It's a waste that they only come over here for one race.
Yeah.
It's got to be a very expensive deal, because they got to fly all those cars over, 2 cars per team, right. All the equipment. Mm-hmm. That's got to be a huge expenditure for F1 to do that. What about the other place I think would be good for them would be Barber Motorsports.
Yeah.
That's a track that would work for them real well too. It's a nice long, I think, 3-mile track. IndyCar does well there. IndyCar runs well there. They had a good crowd. And that might be something that they might consider too. And I also saw Barber Motorsports was starting to court NASCAR too for another road course. But again,
really?
Yeah, I read that on a Twitter that Barber Motorsports is starting to approach NASCAR about bringing the Cup boys down there. But again, it's a balance deal. Somebody's got to give a race up to put a new one in. Yeah. And I don't think these promoters want to give their races up.
And that's why NASCAR wants to buy ISC, so that therefore they're able to have more flexibility with the schedules.
Yeah. Loudon in New Hampshire, do they run 2 races on each of those tracks or just one?
They now run one race since they gave up one of them to Vegas to run the fall race.
Okay. What about Loudon in New Hampshire? Does New Hampshire only have one race now too?
Yeah, Loudon, New Hampshire. Yeah, that's just one race.
Okay. All right. Okay. What do we got? Where are we going now? Are we done with news?
Yeah. Should we just go on with our picks to win at Talladega?
Well, let's talk Talladega a little bit. I read. Pardon?
No, I was singing that one song that went Talladega. I don't know what I just remember hearing it.
I read that Ford has won the last 8 races there.
Yeah, Ford has been the dominant force of the super speedway tracks. So perhaps there's a good chance we could see that domination. Of course, Denny Hamlin won the Daytona 500, strong standing from Toyota. Matt DiBenedetto was very strong in the 500. On the Chevy side, again, Hendrick's fast in qualifying, but can they put it in the race? William Byron was pretty impressive until he got caught up in a late wreck. So, stay up in front and stay out of the poop is all I can say with these races. Yeah.
Picking a winner here is like buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah, pretty much.
You can sit there and see Paul Menard all of a sudden. Everybody wrecks, and Paul Menard's right up front, and 2 guys take each other out, and then you get Paul Menard. And that's how he won Indy when he won Indy. There was carnage in front of him, and he was the last car standing. So
yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see with these spacers what it does. I'm going to be very disappointed if I'm not seeing pack racing. If they take that away from Talladega, then I think they've just ruined Talladega. Because 2.66 miles, it's wide track. There's plenty of room for everybody. And I know the drivers hate those races, but the fans love that.
Oh, yeah.
If you tell anybody about what's their favorite races, it's going to be either Daytona or Talladega for the most part, or one of the short tracks. So before we make our picks, first off, Kyle Larson, is he a disappointment?
I'm starting to think that this package is not benefiting him. I think that's what the issue might be with Larson. I think it's the package. I think maybe it just doesn't – I'm probably repeating myself. It just doesn't fit for Kyle Larson, and I think that could be said for some drivers. But Larson has really struggled this year, and there's always still a chance for him to turn it around and perhaps grab a win. Last year he kind of struggled, but he was doing okay. This year, on the other side, he's been performance-wise just been worse off. he led late at Atlanta, then he got shuffled back. So I'm not really sure what to think of it. And then again, Chevy as a whole looks like a disaster right now. I think that Camaro ZL1 was built for the 2017 package, and I don't think that car's been able to adjust to it the way it was built. So hard to say.
And then Hendrick, still nothing out of Hendrick.
Well, I thought Texas showed some signs. Jimmy Johnson doing decent, and William Byron's kind of been improving as of late. And
definitely,
I think Chevy will get some wins. I think Kurt Busch wins a race or two. I think Chase gets a win or two. Maybe we get a surprise win from Byron or Austin Dillon. Which I have an idea for our picks. We should make a pick and a dark horse pick, like a surprise pick, someone you wouldn't expect. So since it's Talladega, after all. Last one standing, right?
I'll tell you what. My dark horse pick is going to be Chase Elliott. So I'm going to pick him as a dark horse. I think it's down between Hamlin and Logano, truthfully. Both of them run incredibly well on super speedways. Mm-hmm. Hamlin coming off the Daytona win. Logano is one on super speedways. So I'm going to go with Logano.
Okay. So you got Logano and Elliott as your dark horse. Yeah. My dark horse, I'm going to be a little weird here. I'm going to go with William Byron as my dark horse. Yeah. I actually had a dream once that Alex Bowman pushed him to the win at Talladega, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with that and see if it actually happens. So, yeah, I got Byron being the dark horse. I think if he's up there at the end, he could certainly win this race. And as for my pick to win, let's see. You picked a Ford, dude. I'm going to pick a Toyota.
I don't know. Eight straight wins. That's pretty hard.
That is pretty hard. You know what? Actually, no. I'm going to go with the Ford. And I'm going to say Eric Almirola strikes again. I picked him to win Daytona. I'm going to see if I can get him this time at Talladega because he won last time we went there.
Almirola's been running great.
He has been. I think he's a threat to win. So, I'm going to go with Almirola and Byron.
I'm going with Logano, and Elliott is my dark horse.
All righty. There you have it.
The Chevys are going to win in the first half of the season. It's going to be in a track like this.
Yeah.
But I think the Fords have been so dominant there. I don't think that they're going to be able to pull anything off. But this is Chevrolet's best chance because if there is drafting and if they get their cars running, and again, Hendrick does run good on super speedways. Most of the time they don't win because they get caught up in the carnage. I mean, there's been several times, I guess I'm a Chase Elliott fan, so he's running up front, run good, and then some idiot in front of him wrecks and clips him and takes him out of the race. He doesn't cause many wrecks. He doesn't wreck the car himself. But so I'm going to, I think this is Chevrolet's best chance so far.
Yeah, and remember Daytona when Hendrick and Gibbs actually had that temporary alliance to work together against the Fords. There's a good chance we could see that again at Talladega this weekend.
Yeah, well, we need to. So they got to get Chevy in the mix.
Oh yeah, they're probably gonna do that again. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see how this aero package does.
All righty then. Anything else?
I think that'll about cover it for tonight's show.
We'll be on next Wednesday to recap Talladega.
Sure will.
And then we'll preview what's the next track to go to.
Let me check. I want to say it's Kansas, but I want to make sure. I don't want to accidentally give out fake news at all. So, all right. So, yeah, we got Talladega this weekend. No, it's Dover. It's Dover, then Kansas.
Dover.
Yeah, we're going Dover, Kansas, and then the All-Star weekend.
And Dover's the Monster Mile, right?
Yeah, and be sure to go on NASCAR's website and vote for who you want to be the fan vote winner for the All-Star race.
That's right. I got to go do that.
Yeah.
That's the only way Elliott gets into that thing.
Unless he wins one of the stages in the Open, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that's not likely to happen. So anyway, all right. Anything else?
I think that'll wrap it up for this week's episode.
Take us out of here, Alex.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much for listening to this recent episode of the NASCAR Show here on The Grueling Truth, where legends speak, from Steve Risley and myself, Alex Gray, signing off. We'll see you next time.